Today, activists are holding a third day of protests at the site of the president's proposed 250-foot-tall triumphal arch. The administration is fighting lawsuits filed by Vietnam vets and others who have sued to stop construction near the entrance of Arlington National Cemetery.
We shouldn't have no arch. That is not an honor to the veterans. That is just, an ego trip to this president. And it's on our taxpayer money. And it shouldn't be paid. We need that money more for veterans benefits. We need it for housing, for health care.
Nothing hurts me more for the military to think that one person's more important than all the people that have died for this country.
Joining me now is Democratic Congressman from California, Jared Huffman. He's the top Democrat on the House Natural Resources Committee, which oversees the National Park Service. He has gone to the site where the arch is being constructed. So, Congressman, in an op-ed, Republican Senator Jim Banks argued that public beauty is a gift and the arch's design revives the classical architecture of the Capitol, the Washington Monument, and the Jefferson Memorial. Is beauty in the eyes of the beholder when it comes to the triumphal arch?
Well, it certainly is. And the one thing that shouldn't be in the eyes of the beholder is the law. We have a bipartisan law passed in the 1980s, the Commemorative Works Act, that lays out a thoughtful process, how to do it right when you're changing the United States Capitol. Donald Trump has flouted that law and, just seems to think that he's the king and he can build these tributes to himself all over Washington, D.C.
Well, I think but the Trump administration claims they don't actually need Congress's approval for the arch because they're just building on the plans for another project that was approved over 100 years ago, but just was never built. And it's on that exact same spot. So what, if anything, can you and your committee actually do about it? Because as we saw firsthand, you saw it, and there's a picture of you when our cameras went with you. The work's already started.
It has. They didn't want us to see. That's why we had to look behind the curtain there, Chris. But they were breaking ground, something that certainly was belied just the day before by the Secretary of Interior, who testified in our committee that there was not even a project, that there was just a discussion. But you mentioned this century-old authorization roughly in the same place. That was for a totally different design plan. It had nothing to do with an arch. And so if the president tries to justify, rushing ahead like he did with the East Wing demolition on the basis of that century-old design plan for something totally different, that's a specious argument. And I don't think that Judge Chutkan and the federal courts will think kindly about it.
And of course, it's not just the arch. There is that giant hole in the ground where the East Wing of the White House once stood. Redoing the reflecting pool is taking longer than expected, costing more than expected. And now we have this. New images of construction on the South Lawn for a UFC cage match that's supposed to celebrate America's 250th anniversary. All of this going on, I should point out, for the start of the summer tourism season. What do you make of this, Washington?
This is just Donald Trump trying to remake our nation's capital and our culture and, our daily lives in his image. And this is just not America. We don't have a king. We have a very diverse country. Not everybody loves UFC fights and wants to celebrate them at the White House. Not everybody wants these military parades on Donald Trump's birthday. They don't want Donald Trump's name on buildings all over town. And they don't want this gaudy Arc de Trump obscuring the view of Arlington Cemetery. So all of these things, any one of them in isolation might seem fairly trivial, but the bigger picture is we've got a president who is off the rails, who thinks that the rules and the laws about our nation's capital and commemorative works just don't apply to him.
When you talk to members of your committee and the folks who oversee the Park Service, do Republicans express real concerns to you?
They roll their eyes, but they won't find the courage to stand up to President Trump. I'm so impressed that finally the dam broke in the United States Senate over this slush fund, and they did finally stand up to the president. I hope that we see more of that.
And before we go, I want to talk to you about redistricting, because your district in California, I think it's fair to say, was significantly redrawn ahead of the midterms. You're still in a solidly Democratic district. But do you have some larger overarching worries about redistricting around the country? Some of those obviously still being fought in court. And the fact that some people are predicting this is just going to cause chaos in the midterms.
Well, the chaos has already begun. I am very worried, Chris. I think we're in a race to the bottom on political gerrymandering. I don't like gerrymandering at all. I'm appalled that this Supreme Court blessed it as something that is perfectly fine to do. And what you've seen since then is just the worst gerrymandering in modern history, perhaps ever. And now even racial gerrymandering is underway throughout the South. So my hope is that voters across the political spectrum will be disgusted by this and that it will perhaps set the stage for nationwide redistricting reform so that we can just end the entire scourge of political gerrymandering and racial gerrymandering once and for all.
We have only a minute left, but there's one argument that says exactly what you just said. It's time for us to all come together and get something in place. It was every 10 years, right? The other part of it is we're in the cycle now, and it's not going to end. We are on the hamster wheel, and the hamsters aren't going anywhere. What do you think realistically is going to happen here, Congressman?
I think both those arguments are true in this moment. Certainly, Democrats cannot unilaterally disarm, given this race to the bottom that Trump has initiated. But we've got to look at the horizon and what is sustainable for this democracy. And you can't just have these cycles of gerrymandering and the worst possible abuses of the political system. We've got to reset this thing. And my hope is that we can do that under a Democratic Congress in the near future.
Congressman Jared Huffman, thank you. It's good to see you.